Hello, dear friends, my lovely audiences. Welcome to the East-West Show. Jack Chow, your host with GNE TV. On the East-West, we really pay attention to lots of things around us. Many things, amongst all the things around us, there is nothing more than election, nothing more important than election. Because it is the moment to practice our right of democracy. The difference between democracy and the non-democratic country, the system, is that we are the ones to handpick who we want, who we do not want. Even though to those who are in the position, the incumbents, well, if they are not performing to our satisfaction, it is our right under this beautiful flag of democracy to oust him or her or whoever. Right now, LA County, as they say, the biggest county of the United States. I checked on Google. It is the biggest of probably global Earth as a county, and it is important that we have a trustworthy, strong department of law enforcement to make sure it is safe. The biggest but not safe doesn't make sense. We want to say the biggest and the safest, that makes sense. To help making it happen, we need the right people to be there. That's why Jack Chow as a host take no stand, no sides, no partisan, no nothing. I just want to make sure my right of democracy is exercised, that I take the one that I like. Right. So now with me, my dear friend Bob Lindsay, a former commander for LA County Sheriff Department, 32 years, if I recall right, in service in that beautiful department. And out of the 32, there are 28 years he was on the leadership position. And among those years, he had been on to 24, if I remember it right, without looking at this, because this is deep in my heart, different positions, leadership positions, including even jails, right? Even recruitment. Oh, recruitment is most important, and hiring, right? And of course, you name it, all the department. I believe there are 24 departments. That's enough, I believe. And most importantly, he has the ideology that I adore a lot. That's why I make the starting line so long that I want to let you know why Jack Chow, a media man who's supposed to be in the middle of the road, so strongly support him, because I want my audience to know, well, that I do have a take as a citizen of the county, right? So now that said, seriously, present my dear friend Bob Lindsay, candidate for County Sheriff of LA.
Thank you, Jack. And I want to just say, we are very lucky to have you in LA County.
All right, we're lucky dogs.
Yes, lucky dogs.
We're lucky dogs. Oh,
and the year of the dog is
the coming
up.
year is Chinese lunar term is the lucky dog, right?
Yep.
Okay. And speaking of Bob Lindsay, I did check with him. Like I said, every time when I'm sitting here doing promotion for election for handpicked the individuals, I check, all right, how much, where are you from? What have you done, right? Do you know your people? Do you know your land? And what do you have in your bucket as your list, right? And so on and so forth. Why you think you're the one, right? Why you think you can do the job that people fail to do? Well, those questions, those are very, very regular questions with no partisan, no take, no whatsoever. You can answer the question, you're the one. That's it. Simple.
Yeah, this is why you're so important to the community, because usually it's the police doing a background on you. You're doing a background on the police position.
Oh, thank you.
And you are helping the
community. Thank you for saying that. Yeah. Even this morning before you arrived, I was on my homework and I checked a few websites. I just Googled the keywords LA SD campaign, or the race of LA County Sheriff.
Yes.
LA County Sheriff race, something like that. And I saw quite a few websites that I would believe that 90% of the website that I visited this morning, your name is on top.
Very good. I appreciate
That
that.
I should give you a big, big hand.
It's hard work, but it's been hard work with you and the community, but it's rewarding. It's rewarding getting out and talking to people and finding out what their issues are.
When you say hard work, I will do a little analysis of the word hard work. Of course, it could be hard work campaigning. Also, it could be hard work you previously put up your service with.
Yes.
Right? That's
Both.
even harder work, or both.
Both.
Number one, you have done so much, you have achieved that much, and that is a credit there. That's hard work. And number two, the hard work is that to make people aware of the hard work that you have done before.
You know, it's hard work, but it's a blessing for me to be able to get out there and help. And I'll give you an example of hard work, and your community will understand this because they're so family oriented. My daughter had surgery on Monday, serious surgery, and the only thing I have been able to do is FaceTime her. Thank goodness for FaceTime, because I have been so busy on the campaign, I haven't had a chance to get over to see her yet. So I'm hoping to do that tonight, but it is hard work. It's for good purpose, though. It's for the right reasons, and in the end, it will pay off, and the community is going to be much safer.
After all, we're only human. It is a very human thing in this situation. And by the way, I should say, sorry to hear that. Well, anyway, it's a very human thing when you're in such a situation. Yet, you're not the only one, right? If you check with Chinese history, about 2,000 years ago, there was one who was assigned by the royal court on flood situation. He was controlling the flood. Okay, on way going back and forth, there were 3 times he passed by his own house.
Oh, sacrifice.
Without going in. So we say 3 times passing his own house without going in. You check that lines on Google, they'll tell you exactly. His name is Da Yu. Da Yu. In other words, you are following without knowing a good example of devotion. Devotion. I like that. I really like that. Right. People who can devote that much in a situation like that, I should say I can trust. I can trust. At least if I'm in danger, he will be the one running towards the bullet. Something like that kind of, right? Okay. And that said, oh, by the way, remember the Da Yu thing.
I will.
Right. It's your model that you followed without knowing the name, right? Okay.
Well, I will try and reach that, but I'm sure he is very, very famous. And
you will be. You will be. Because we're the biggest county on earth.
It is. 10.1 million people.
Yeah, his county might not be that big, though. You are running the maybe bigger territory than he is.
Well, I'll tell you, he was handling floods, and right now in LA County, we're handling a flood of crime.
Yeah, you really have. But yes, Jim McDonald the other day on the news says that crime rate is down. Was he what? Was he not telling the truth? What? Well, you were saying it's up.
You know what? He's the sheriff of Los Angeles County, and I'm not going to say that he didn't tell the truth, but the truth wasn't told, if that makes sense. So when he says crime is down, that is not the truth. Now, whether he just doesn't know it, and here's the thing with the sheriff. Maybe he was given statistics and he didn't understand them. I don't know. But as the sheriff of Los Angeles County,
I see.
If you don't know just by feel, just by being in the community, by simply talking to people that they're suffering, that crime is up, that there are a lot of victims out there, then you've missed the whole point of your job.
You made a very big point by that's the statement. And of course, you want to be rhetorically right, right? And I, as a media man, I don't care. I just want to speak how I feel. whatever I say represents myself anyway, right?
Right.
So whatever you're saying is not the truth, though, could be interpreted as you're not telling the truth. And how do we further interpret the term of not telling truth? There are words. There are many words you can pick.
Well, you know, the community shouldn't be misled. And when you go out and say crime is reducing or crime is down, the community feels much better, and sometimes the community will say, oh, okay, we don't have to be as vigilant. If you go out and say crime is up, it's way up, then people say, hey, wait a minute, I've got to watch my kids, I've got to watch what's going on, I've got to watch my house, my property, and all of those things. And actually that helps us. That helps the police department.
Okay, probably the best interpretation would be that he wanted to pacify the community. And there are good examples. In China back then when I was there was one situation that an earthquake was predicted, right? There is going to be an earthquake. The guy in charge was worried about, no, that will stir up the community, all right? That will stir up people. He kept it secret, and yet it happened.
And no one was prepared.
No one was prepared.
Right.
Okay, a lot of people died. Okay, of course, he says, I want to pacify the community, the people. But as a matter of fact, people end up getting killed. So that's the philosophy.
Well, you can hear it here on G&E Studios and EDI. Crime is up.
All right. And I can hear from Jim McDonald, crime is down. It sounds like we have an argument. Anyway, that's why we want to get to the truth. We get to the very, very bottom line with AB 109 and the proposition, so on and so forth. And we are surrounded by the early release criminals or inmates who are supposed to be indoors rather than outdoors, and also with the failure of exercising the job duty for county sheriff themselves, county deputies themselves.
Right.
Like the last time you mentioned, they were afraid of getting punished. They were afraid of getting disciplined, so on and so forth. You want to probably update my audiences about those problems we have, which to me adds up. You have more bad guys, and yet you have reluctant officers. It looks to me that's a situation.
Well, it does. You know, being the sheriff is a multifaceted job. You certainly have to be a law enforcement officer, and in the sheriff's department, it's a paramilitary organization. You have the sheriff, the undersheriff, the assistant sheriffs, and it goes all the way down. And finally, at the bottom of the rung, but really the most important are the deputy sheriffs. And why are they the most important?
You are right. You're right.
They're the most important because they respond to the community directly.
Yes.
And so these are the people that typically the public will see, are the deputy sheriffs. They don't see the sheriff very often or all these other people who sit in the buildings down there, right? They see the real workers. Now, when the real workers are out there, and I'm going to give an analogy, because the sheriff isn't just a law enforcement officer, he also has to be a parent. So if you have a son or a daughter who puts their hand in the cookie jar, you go over and tell them not to do it.
Not kill him?
Don't have it. You can't have that cookie before dinner. But I will reward you after a good dinner and give you a cookie. If you go over there and you cut your child's hand off, that is what's occurring. There is no measure of compassion. There is no measure of sense or common sense. What we need is to go back to the way it was previously in education-based discipline. And we can talk about that.
You're right. After all, we're only human.
That's right.
We're only human. We want to say, to make sure that everybody who are putting themselves in line needs protection too. Right? If the laws, the principles, or the rules, whatever, do not or fail to protect them, it is a failure number one. If to get, on the contrary, punished, is failure number two. You're talking about failure number one and two. Am I right?
I am. And Jack, you know, you're a person. You have feelings. You have a heart. And I've seen your big heart, by the way.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah.
But so do teachers, so do doctors, so do plumbers. And sometimes people forget
Mm-hmm.
that police officers are people too. They don't just wear a uniform, they go home to families.
All right, it sounds that we have a longer line to follow. Let's take a very short moment out, and we are, matter of fact, waiting for another friend of mine, Mr. John Paul, to arrive. And he might be here. My crew just buzzed me. He might be here already. And it's time to pause for a segment. When we come back, we put John Paul here. All together, we'll further discuss what we need exactly as the most important thing. So stay with us. Hello, dear friends, my lovely audiences, ladies and gentlemen, my dear fellow Angelinos. Welcome back to the discussion about Angelina, about our county of Los Angeles. Yes, it is rather important we understand that we are the biggest county on earth, on global earth. If that is not accurate, let's say we're the biggest in the United States as a county. Yet, is our county as the biggest safe or the safest? If not, we fail. We want to make sure that we are in the biggest and safest county. For that, directly, the finger points to the department. For the current job they're doing, we see less officers, we see crime rate going up, even though chief says, sheriff says, the crime is down. I believe he was miscalculated whatsoever. We want to make sure that we have the right to decide who we want there. As a candidate for that sheriff seat for LA County, I have my good friend Bob Lindsay running. So far, he's running so successfully. For example, like this morning, I checked about 10, no less than 10 websites. His name is about 90% on top, the very top. So, in sharing the philosophies or in finding those essence of those philosophies, we also have the pleasure to have Mr. John Paul, JP, of Orange County, visiting us. Once again, Jay, I would say welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us, Jack.
Very good, very good. A little background about yourself, please.
So, I was a reserve police officer in the city of Long Beach. Started in '95. I did about 18 years as a reserve police officer.
Oh.
I served in many capacities, from patrol to domestic violence, vice. I ended my career in violent crimes as a detective. I went through a lot of specialized schools and training, including SWAT, basic and advanced sniper, firearms instructor, handgun, shotgun, law enforcement instructor, tactical rifle instructor, patrol rifle instructor, terrorism liaison officer, surveillance and counter-surveillance detection and installation of remote surveillance and electronic devices, covert entries and for law enforcement into structures and buildings, destructive entry, dynamic entry into the structure. So
wow, you're everything.
You know, Jack, I feel much safer sitting here now.
Yeah, sure. All right, sure. Me too, me too.
But I was a reserve officer.
I know, but we need you someday.
But
we'll need you. Yeah.
My career was mostly on Wall Street, working for large Wall Street investment banks.
Very
I started my career with Merrill Lynch, then Bear Stearns. I also did some time with Morgan Stanley and UBS, and most recently at Deutsche Bank. Now I run my own businesses on the side.
I see. Very good. Okay. Applying to your rich background as being a reserve police officer, though, let me check you with one thing to follow with his statement he just made.
Sure.
Before you arrived, he stated that it is a paramilitary system.
Correct.
All right. And to the bottom, if you check about a deputy, he follows instructions given by his supervisor.
Correct.
And the supervisor follows instruction up him.
Correct.
And up him.
Correct.
Up him, right? Am I right if I say, if you see anything wrong, this problem goes all the way up to the one who made the policies or rules?
Correct. So every law enforcement organization is a paramilitary organization. In some ways, particularly with the command structure, it is a military structure.
Yeah, yeah,
So-
all right, that's what I see.
Speaking from a police department, as an officer reports to his sergeant, as a deputy reports to his sergeant, the sergeant reports to his lieutenant, lieutenant reports to his, in the sheriff's department, I believe it becomes captain and then commander and then chief. But in the police department, it's lieutenant, then commander, then deputy chief, and then on.
Then the chief, yeah.
The culture comes from the top all the way down. It's like in the Navy. You might be the captain of the ship and you might be asleep, but your ensign is at the helm and he's supervising the chief, who supervises the third class petty officer who's holding
Yeah,
the wheel.
you're right.
If the ship runs into an iceberg and the ship sinks, ultimately command responsibility goes to the chief, or in that case the captain. So absolutely, it does go. Everything trickles down from that culture.
The purpose of checking that is to purely to make it aware by our audiences that it is right to say anything wrong goes up to the supreme, very top instructions, right?
Correct.
Remember, a month ago, you both were at my invitation to do the forum. At the forum, we discussed one case, right? In that case, two officers just came, happened to be on the spot when the business was being robbed, right? And
Correct.
the suspect was running out, and they captured. Why don't you tell the story, please?
Well, it's a situation, and this has to do with leadership from the top, the way you build your policies and the things that you do. So if you have a policy, in this case, the policy is you're not supposed to chase commercial burglars. Why you're not supposed to chase them is because the business has insurance. That has nothing to do with catching criminals. That's like saying because you have house insurance, we're not going to chase the criminal. It makes absolutely no sense. But these are policies that come from the top. In this case, we had police officers who risked their lives to chase after people who were stealing things. They don't know if they have guns, they don't know who they are, but they chase them and risk their lives. They catch them and they put them in jail. The community is happy, the deputies are happy, but in this case, the department wasn't happy
And the
because
business owner was happy,
business
yeah.
owner was elated. He got his stuff. He didn't have to go through insurance. His insurance rates didn't rise. It was a win-win for everybody. But in this case, the deputies were chastised for being out of policy. That is a ridiculous policy.
So very ridiculous. You're taking this case, please?
So here is what happens in many things. We have a concept called unintended consequences.
Unintended consequences.
What it means is you might mean for one law to apply and help people, but because of how it's written, in this case a policy, you say you have a policy, I think that was a misinterpretation. Frankly, I don't think there's a written policy that says you don't pursue criminals, because guess what? That would be against your oath as a law enforcement officer to not do your job. I think people are so scared, from the sergeant to the lieutenant, of engaging, that they say, if I can say, I read it on a website that, that now we're going to Mars and they're selling tickets for that space flight. Just because you read it on the internet doesn't make it true. So in that case, I believe it was a misinterpretation of what they say as policy. There's no such thing as, I think they're making it up.
Sure.
I think he's just trying to sound official, saying, no, I'd rather you don't do that. But in order for them to listen, he probably just said, no, it's against policy for you to do that.
But
if he writes it, that's absolutely absurd.
Sure. To me, as a average Joe, my understanding is as simple as the following. My shop is being robbed, and the suspect is running away. Lucky me, I saw two officers, and lucky me, the two officers started chasing, and lucky me, they got the suspect, and lucky me, I got my stuff, right? If anything goes against this, goes the contrary of this, I'm not happy. I say something is wrong. I don't care who is wrong. Okay? Let the logic follow. Let the logic do who is wrong. I said, I'm not served. Am I right? My tax money goes to down the drain.
Correct.
Right? I'm not a protector. I want nothing. I don't care about your politics or rules. Go F them. I don't care. Right? All I care is that I have a safe shop, I have a good business, and I'm protected. Now that I'm in the case, I was so luckily protected, and you guys not happy of me being protected? So something wrong. All right. My dear audiences, what's being discussed right now is just what's happening here in the county of LA. Officers get arrested for doing their business, which is totally upset. All right. Anyway, with me today, talking about the election to my dear friend, Bob Lindsay, who is the candidate for county sheriff, and one of the big supporter, my dear friend, John Paul. We are not just shouting, vote for Bob, vote for Bob. We don't have to say that. We want see, those are the outlines. We want the credit, we want the spirit, we want the essence to do the job. All right, let's take a very short moment now. When we come back, we will continue, please. Hello, dear friends, my lovely fellow Angelinos. Welcome back to the talk about Los Angeles as a county. With me today, candidate for county sheriff, Mr. Bob Lindsay, and a wonderful individual who has done his glorious 32 years of service in the department where he is campaigning now. I believe his own backyard. He's only going back to his own house, something like that. That's true. Out of this 32, there are 28 years he was on leadership position. And amongst the 28 years of leadership position, he has been on 24 different assignments, important, super important assignments. Those are the tough job, and he did it successfully and wonderfully and beautifully. That's why he earned lots of support. And I know quite a few sheriffs who are now at this moment on the service. They all speak high about Bob Lindsay. The fact from understood reason, easily understood reason, I can't bring them here, or they can't show face here, but I know there are lots of fellow officers supporting him. Next to him is my good friend, John Paul. John Paul is a dear friend of mine. He's from Orange County, and reserve officer, reserve sheriff, has gone well trained on the force for 18 years, right? And both of them, of course, me doing my job is on behalf of my audiences. Once again, we're talking about representation. I'm representing my audiences. You represent your constituents, your community members who you protect, right? I'm asking questions. Why this happened? Why this happened, and yet we want a correction. We want things to be improved. Now, at the end of the last segment, we came to one specific point that we introduced one incident that I really have to repeat it one more time, all right? Our business was being robbed. At that time, the suspect running out, the boss, the owner of the business, chasing. That very moment, the two officers passing by so happened to be passing by. They started chasing the suspect until, of course, the risk is there. They never know who they are. They never know if they are armed. How many? 2, 3, 4, whatever. All right. They chased all the way until they upper-handed them, two of them, and got the stuff back to the business owner. So the officers are happy. The business owner happy. Bystanders watching are happy. Ah, good, like that kind of thing, right? And then, well, the sheriff is not happy. Well, for that, these officers got punished. We are analyzing that case to see the culture behind, right? To you, Bob, like I said, everything has two sides, like a coin, right? From my side, I'm talking about me as an average Joe. I'm totally unsatisfied if something happens like this to me, because I pay my tax. I'm a law-abiding citizen. I do my part. I need protection, and yet they fail to protect me.
Right.
And John Paul just now stated that, well, it is obviously wrong because you're following the instructions. Step by step goes up. Now, to the very top, though, there must be a guy who make this. Number one question, who made it? Number two, why would he make it? Please.
So, Jai, this is a nighttime burglary, and I know that robbery and burglary sometimes sound the same, but they're a little bit different. So a burglary is when somebody comes in and they may not have a gun, but they're taking your property. They break in. They violate your business. And then it turned into a car pursuit. Okay, so when it turned into the car pursuit, that's what the violation is. If they have a policy that says you can't pursue commercial burglars, it's because of the pursuit policy, not the policy that you can't catch criminals. It's because they don't want you chasing a car with those criminals in it. Now it gets a little bit complicated, but it really isn't. It's real simple.
We see them chasing on the freeway all the time.
It's simple. These are felons. Catch them. Now we don't want to engage the public in a pursuit that is very, very dangerous. We do have to be careful about how dangerous a pursuit gets. But I'll give you another quick example. There was a pursuit, it got terminated, and this was the person with a gun who hijacked a car with a gun. And he's driving around, and all of the police were called off. The sheriffs were called off, and the news helicopters were saying, where did the sheriff go? They're gone. Why did they leave? Well, they left because instead of doing their job confidently, they were afraid they would get in trouble, not the guy with the gun. Ultimately, they did re-engage, they did go get the guy, but it wasn't because of them, it was because somebody had courage to go ahead and do the right thing. And so this is what we need. We need courage, we need leadership. We don't need this other stuff. I will tell you the difference between me and Mr. McDonald. The difference between the current sheriff and myself is I have spent 32 years on the department and another 7 watching the department, which is a total of 39. I have 39 years in the department. He has 3. 39 versus 3. You know, I used to pick up a young blind man who wanted to come to my son's baseball games. He couldn't get there, so I used to go pick him up. And I had lots of conversations with him. And I soon learned that he was very comfortable in his house. He was blind, but he knew every bit of his house. When he got out on the streets, it was more difficult. He had his cane and he needed a little bit of help. But I go into the sheriff's department, and with the lights out, I know my way around. The current sheriff is bumping into everything. He has no clue what's going on in there. And that is his problem. He is not prepared or ready to run the largest sheriff's department in the world.
That's an excellent, very sounding explanation or a statement. In other words, am I right if I say such policies are made because the one making the policy, number one, does not know his house. Number two, does not know how to run the business in the house. And number three, doesn't have the courage, and he doesn't encourage courage.
Good point.
Am I right?
It's an excellent point. And remember that
it's to me it's a gallantry thing.
Right.
To be a police officer. Like you said, in the incident, it is not because whoever re-instructed them, it is because somebody's guts got in and got reinforced, got re-entered. Your take, please. I'm kind of like exhausted.
It's very simple, Jack. I mean, if you look at how law enforcement functions with the public, as you said, you just want the bad guys to go away and you expect them to do their job.
Simple.
The current sheriff simply wants an outlook from the public to say, my people have zero defects. They're perfect people. They never make mistakes. But instead of just leading them and creating a culture that fosters initiative and a desire to do good, he says it's easier if I just tell them, you don't make if you make a mistake, you're gone. So that culture that he instilled is one of, he wants to pretend that police officers, deputies have zero defect. I know the current sheriff knows how to be a policeman, but he's not. He's a politician today. Today the current sheriff's a politician. Today the current sheriff is pretending for his purposes to show that I am so clean, my house is so clean that my people cannot do any wrong.
Wonderful, wonderful, Jay. I believe that it is the most essential analysis of the position or character the current sheriff has, right? Okay, now, he mentioned in between politician and the sheriff, how do you see the difference, if there's any?
I don't think there is. We need to take the politics out of the top job. He shouldn't be a politician, but he definitely is. That is all he is, in my eyes. Others may say different, but in my eyes, with all my experience on the department, and let me tell you why. He grew up in Los Angeles Police Department. He didn't have to make a decision. The mayor told him what to do. The city council told him what to do, and he did what they told him to do, and he did it very effectively. But that's not leading, that's following. When he went to Long Beach, he had a mayor and a city council telling him what they wanted him to do. He followed very effectively. Then he became the sheriff. You can't be a follower anymore. You are now the leader. You're responsible to the community. You're responsible to everybody. 10.1 million people you're responsible to. And what he has been doing is irresponsible.
That's very, very thorough. I would say the onion gets peeled layer by layer, right? Absolutely. Until we see this person, this individual may be a good guy or a very good guy, but the lack of the leadership knowledge, leadership ability. Even in politics, we're always talking about vision, right? And kind of a lack of a vision. Am I right if I feel that way?
Absolutely, and this is a good point that Bob brought up. You cannot be a follower in the Sheriff's Department because, one, you are responsible for one of the largest incarceration systems in the United States. The LA County jail system is larger than most state prisons. They recycle more inmates through that place on a daily basis than other places in entire countries. That's one. The second thing is you're responsible to the 30-plus contract cities, each of whom have their own city council, their own mayor, their own city manager, and they all want answers. So unless you're setting the tone in a systematic way that's very clear and concise and responding to each of those individual needs, it would be like saying, I can juggle one ball, because I was the chief of Long Beach, I was a deputy chief in LA, and then somebody gives you a whole basket of balls, and now you don't know,
you don't know how
that's
much
where
to
he
play.
is. So he says, you know what, I won't juggle. Let me just put it all aside and I'll just pretend nothing's happening, and that's just, I don't want anybody to get in trouble.
And a while ago you mentioned about the fact that he just wants to keep everything clean, everything looking beautiful.
Correct.
Right? So I'm really, really upset by such a concept, because why we need doctors? Because we need to live longer. We need to be healthy, right?
Yes.
Why do we do physical checkup every year? I do twice a year. I mean, every other year, right? Anyway, we do checkup to find out the problems and get upper hand of the problem so that you're healthier than
Absolutely.
before. Now, by covering it, not let things happen. For example, these two officers, these two sheriffs, chasing or not chasing these suspects, the robbery happened already. Right? The robbery happened already.
Burglary.
No, a burglary.
Yeah.
The burglary happened already.
Yes.
Anyway,
The crime had been committed.
Yeah, a crime had been committed. We taxpayers, we want crime to be, number one, prevented, number two, apprehended if happens.
Correct.
Right? Now he comes in between.
Yes.
So by that philosophy, do you still see a beautiful looking, good looking surface?
No, the surface no longer is the way it used to be. In fact, if you took and looked at the baseball field, let's call it a baseball field, and you had 9 players out there, right now the deputies, they're the players, they've all gone into the dugout. Okay? They're all waiting to come out when it's safe. And so what you have is you talked about prevention, they're not out preventing crime. They're in the dugout preparing, keeping themselves safe. It looks like, for them, it looks like a rainy day out there, okay? It looks like it's raining down on them, and they're waiting for it to get a little bit sunnier so it's safer for them.
Am I right if I say further, instead of to make sure that the community members are safe, the deputies are made by the culture to consider themselves safe first?
I would say this, and this is something we've talked about from the beginning. The entire community in the LA County Sheriff's Department of deputies on the streets are engaging in what's called avoidance behavior. Let's avoid getting into trouble. Let's
Avoidance and behavior.
Correct. Avoidance behavior. Let's avoid engaging, because even if we do our job correctly, we may get in trouble. Let's avoid doing anything except the minimum. Let's avoid making decisions. So the result is what you said. As a citizen, I'm not feeling safe. I'm not feeling catered to. Crime and criminals are rampant. Everything is going wrong, and it trickles back down. You put them in the jail. They're not disciplined. They get released from jail. It's a big cycle.
But Jack, let me make one thing very clear, because I don't want anything to be misunderstood. These are great deputies. These are deputies that come to work every day willing to sacrifice everything.
I say that way too.
This isn't their fault.
No, of course not.
Okay, this is the fault of leadership, so I don't want anybody to misunderstand.
Of course not.
These deputies want to come to work every day, keep the community safe, protect the community, but they are in shackles right now.
I'm talking to culture misleading them.
Yes.
To say, hey, if you go avoid, I mean, you go get involved. I want you to avoid. That's it. The word involve and avoid, there's a big difference. There's a huge difference. And the word involve is what we get for, what we pay our tax for, and the word avoid is not.
You see, I honestly believe, and this is my belief, that the current sheriff doesn't mind if they sit back and they avoid, because he thinks he'll get less lawsuits. He thinks he'll get less things, happening to the department. He believes that that is a good thing, whereas we as the public, we as citizens, we as victims, know it's a bad thing when deputies don't feel like they are supported by their very own sheriff.
That's a tragedy. That's a tragedy to Angelenos, and also a tragedy to himself, because I believe if you want to stand tall as a sheriff, you would really want to make sure that your officers are willing to get involved with the community safety, not to get away from it, right? So, of course, if I were a deputy myself under such culture, I would not bother. I would not. And then Jonathan will follow my example, because I'm his supervisor. And the Jonathan's people in his group will follow Jonathan. Right. Am I right?
That's right.
Absolutely.
Right? And then the whole EDI will just wait there and say, hey, let's do nothing. Let's do nothing, man. What a call. All right, good. Okay, my dear audience, today with my dear friend Bob Lindsay, a great man, I really wish that if God would help us, of course, we're the gods, put him in office, we will see a different LA County. And my dear friend, John Paul, he has the ability to see through things. His analysis is the most thorough I've ever checked about. For example, the word avoid is a huge thing. I believe the tumor is right there in the word avoid. Oh yeah, there is O there anyway.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a short moment now. When we come back, we will check with my friend Bob Lindsay. How is he going to deal with all these basketball, full basket of basketballs? How about that?
That's a good one.
Because the guy can't play. How do you want to play? Something like that. How about that?
Excellent.
Very good. Thank you, Jack.
Let's challenge him.
Of course.
All right, good. All right, stay with us. Hello, dear friends, my dear fellow Angelinos. Welcome back to the discussion talking about our own backyard. Backyard being LA as a county, the biggest county of United States, if not of the global Earth, with 1.1 million in population, with 88 cities, or more than 30 something about contract cities, and officers. Of course, there's a short, understaffed situation anyway, supposed to be 85,000 minimum, something like that. That's big enough to call army. Yet we have a problem. We do have a problem. We do not see the problem inside, but we see the problem outside because the crime rate is up, right? Which is the hard indicator. And we have two things going up now: the Dow Jones going up and the crime rate going up in Los Angeles. Strange enough, in California as a state, the crime rate is going down, whereas as a county of LA, crime rate is going up. And yet, the sheriff says in one news release that the crime rate is down. Though anyway, there are lots of problems. If I quote from my friend John Paul, that you have a full basket full of basketballs, and this player cannot handle. All right, now, that said, and many checked, right? We know that we have a moral issue. We have a understaffed issue. We have big word, avoid as a culture. And then they have rules to support these, right? Once you're in office, what do? You have the magic? You can move things around? What do you want to do?
You know, I don't have the magic, but I have the team. I have a very...
Oh, the team.
This has to be a team effort. You know what? I could walk in there knowing I have 32 years and another 39 years with experience in 25 different assignments. I ran the department from the inside as the captain of personnel, doing all the hiring, all of the recruitment, all of that, everything that was resource related.
You are the man who can find everything in the house with a blindfold.
I can see it. I know what the issue is. And if you don't surround yourself with the right people who can fix it, I can't fix everything. You have to surround yourself with the right people in the department, and you have to surround yourself with the right community people to engage us, tell us what they need so that we can give them the resources they need. You know, this sheriff is constantly complaining about money, that he doesn't have enough. He's got $3.3 billion, and what I am being told, he's over budget now. Yet he spends money on buckles and stickers for cars. You know, it's amazing how...
And shirts.
And in fact, heavier shirts for the deputies that make them uncomfortable. In the summer, they burn up because the shirts are too heavy. And why? Because he wanted their badge to be straight. This is ridiculous.
I heard that story. People laugh over that.
I'll tell you what, when you start putting the money on deputies to do the right thing, to fight crime and to do those things, and you put it into resources for the children in the community and putting the youth groups together and the community groups together, this is when we become winners. And you know, you talked about voting and that it's a right. I look at it as a responsibility. And anybody who sits at home knowing crime is going up, knowing the money is being spent ineffectively and irresponsibly on the sheriff's department, and you sit at home and you let it keep happening, then that's not my fault because I'm sitting here with Jack.
I believe that we owe our audiences some sticker stories, some buckle stories, some thicker jacket stories, stuff like that, versus the fact that we're short of money, the budget problem. So you will do that?
Sure. I mean, I can cover that. You know, the LA Times does its best to try and find information when things are irresponsible. And they did a story on the buckles. In fact, Jimmy Kimmel did a story on the buckles, the gold buckles versus the silver buckles. And they try and find a cost out. And I think they came up, it was $350,000 that they spent in buckles. The truth of the matter is probably more like $1 million because of the people they had behind the scenes. But the department won't tell you that. They will hide all this information because it's embarrassing if they actually tell you the truth about how much money they spent on that. You know, the stickers on a patrol car, they say a tradition of service on them. This sheriff didn't like the way that it was the big O, little o, and so he began changing out the stickers on the cars and spent probably in excess of $1 million if you go in and really do the research and get the truth. But here's the fact. They didn't have to be changed. The public doesn't care about the O on a car. They care about a car showing up to their house when they call them.
Yeah, of course.
This is what they care about.
Yes, yes,
when
yes,
you
yes.
get a new car, change the
Exactly.
sticker.
Exactly.
You don't have to change it on an old
Exactly,
car.
yeah.
These are the things that just are not bright, they're not prudent, and they're irresponsible. All of that money could have gone into training. It could have gone into the jails to help in there. I mean, let's face it, right now, deputies are getting attacked every day in the jail.
It could have gone to the officers, the 2 deputies chasing, award them. When more officers see the award, oh wow, that's the right way to do. You get more chasing on the streets, right?
These deputies need to be commended for what they're doing. And let me put out there, some deputies do bad things. There was one in the papers who, if it's true, what's in the papers, I don't believe everything I read, but if it's true and this deputy actually used his badge to help people take narcotics from here to Las Vegas, those are the deputies we need gone. We need them out of here. We don't want to deal. And you know what? The deputies will tell you the same thing. That's a bad deputy. Get rid of him as fast as you can because he makes us look very bad.
All right, good. And you just now mentioned about the politics. I would start a word with a P too, polish, to refer to politics, because politics polishes, do politics, right? So, do you think what Bob has described, the buckle story, the sticker story, all tend to be polishing?
Absolutely, and you know, in politics, when you have a new chief or a new sheriff take over a law enforcement organization, there's always a degree of change. The issue is when you have larger issues with budget, training, lack of responsiveness to the community, why do you have time to worry about someone's shirt?
You're right.
You know, it's let's do, the business of law enforcement is to enforce the law and protect the public. Right? If I could do that in my pajamas and the public gets happy, what does it matter what I'm wearing? The reality is they already have a uniform that works. They already have cars that work. Why do you need to change the stickers? If someone has the time to worry about that, but not worry about the fact that he hasn't been able to hire people, that people are disengaged, the deputies are disengaged in avoidance behavior of their duties and doing the minimum, why is he not asking for help? Why does he not have a team of people inside the department helping him?
There might be some fact that chemically or physically that a silver buckle work less or less effective than gold.
No, you know, they got out.
Any scientific approval?
Well, I think scientifically, they actually didn't do a scientific test, but the sheriff, I am told, stated that, and his staff stated that this would protect the deputies because suspects, criminals, were much more unlikely to get in a fight with you if you had a pretty gold buckle rather than a silver one. And you said,
okay, I'll do for the buckle, right?
if that's all,
I give up.
Yeah, give up, right? Good.
If that's all it takes to fight crime, I would just tell the whole community to all wear gold buckles on their belts and nobody'd ever have a problem.
Yeah. See?
It's
See?
ridiculous.
All right, jokingly or seriously, this is really an issue, I would say, of child play. All right. Anyway, like I said, my dear folks, my lovely hosts, by the way, my audience is trusted I'm over these years, over time. Mm-hmm. They trust me, not a great man, but a good guy, right? So they buy my philosophy, they buy the fact who I support, right? I want my audience to join me for a party as a team. We mentioned a team, right? Because we really want the job done. As for cosmetics, well, we wait until we're rich enough to do that, right? And the other day, I went to one of the Chinese tea store, and I found a box of tea, and they opened it. Let me smell it. Let me check inside. My God, that was exactly the same tea that a friend of mine sent me the other day in a huge box like this. The tea box is this big, right? It's all kind of gold plated. And it says that is worth of 2,000 RMB. Mm. You know how much the tea I found out it would cost? $2 US.
Oh.
See?
So 2,000 renminbi divided by what, 6.6?
6, well, let's do 7.
Okay,
let's
7,
do 7.
So like $280.
Yeah, $280 for $2 of the tea. So now, all we as the community members wanted is a box of $2 tea. That's it, right?
You don't need the packaging.
I don't need the packaging like that kind of.
That's right.
For buckles, as long as you can pull up your pants, keep them tight, not let them loose though. Anyway, that's enough. And provided, in addition, on the contrary, the fact is that if you really wear gold, probably you'll get more bad guys.
Here's the funny thing, Jack.
Right?
When it wears out, it's silver underneath.
Oh, anyway.
They don't last us forever.
Anyway, right? Anyway, yeah. I like this. This is gold.
That will last.
This is gold.
That one's going to last.
So my audience, let's see. I'll show you how much we're supporting. At the show I'm supporting, I myself am supporting as a friend and as a responsible. We mentioned the word responsibility, right?
Yes.
Responsible. In this case, we are responsible for ourselves.
Correct.
Because somebody could walk in and get me killed, right? So I want to protect myself. So to do something, all right, I have a bunch of bumper stickers, the back bumper stickers, and if you need one, you can send email to tell my DJ to ask, and I can, of course, hand deliver it to you. So these are the ones, right? Oh, by the way, they are vinyl. They don't take your pants away, all right? Okay. And to go better, I have envelopes. I want to support this much. If you guys need also, wow, many of you know my numbers. They know my cell phone number. We're on a first name basis.
Fantastic.
Right?
Beautiful.
So we can do that. So your what kind of words, like a word or two to wrap up, please?
Well, I just want to thank you, first of all, Jack, for the time that you spend, not just with me, but for the community.
You're welcome,
because
yeah.
I know I'm not the only person you support. You find people that are going to help your viewers. And for John Paul and myself, we thank you for caring so much about your community. And I would just ask the community to take a look at us.
I'm only being selfish because I care about myself. I don't want to get killed.
Yeah, well,
that's it, right?
Well, we're ready. I can
We're
tell
ready.
you, John
Very
Paul,
good.
myself, and all the others, we're ready.
Very good. Hey, John, you wrap it up, please.
Well, thank you for your time. Thank you for supporting the campaign, and you know your trust is not misplaced with Bob.
All right, very good. I believe that I want to bet. I'm ready. All right. So, my audiences, ladies and gentlemen, my dear fellow Angelinos, I believe you are ready too. Oh, we'll see you again.